Xander Harris had been Willow's oldest friend. They had known each other since kindergarten. Even though he was angry that Willow had used magic on her friends, even if it had been by accident, he was still her friend. And because of that, he was deeply concerned when he couldn't contact her. He tried calling her home phone and the number for her dorm room. He even went to her house, knocking on the door, ringing the bell, and yelling her name, but there was no reply. The house stood empty. He then headed to the UC Sunnydale library, but he had no luck finding her there either. He checked the coffee shop and the magic box, yet still couldn't find her. He had no idea where Willow could be hiding, and it worried him. Since he couldn't think of anywhere else Willow might be staying, Xander returned to Giles's apartment, where the rest of the Scoobies were ignoring Spike's yells from the shower where he was imprisoned. Xander stepped into the apartment, closed the front door, waved at Anya as she prepared coffee in the kitchen, and then headed toward Buffy and Giles, who were speaking in hushed tones. They shuffled through several papers and maps marked with red circles that indicated locations where people dressed in black, lightly armored clothing had been sighted. Like those guys we ran into during last Halloween, Xander thought, recalling the night they had been trapped inside that house of horrors. Shaking his head, Xander moved closer and stopped at the edge of the coffee table. "Hey Buff, have you heard from Willow?" he asked. "Nope, haven't heard a peep from her," Buffy replied while staring at a map. She then glanced up at Xander. "Maybe she's somewhere clearing her head. I wouldn't worry about her." But Xander began. Buffy gently cut him off. "She can't take care of herself." "Come on, Buffy, aren't you concerned? I checked everywhere." Xander turned toward Giles, who sat on the other side of the coffee table. "Giles, I can't find her anywhere." "Have you checked the library?" Anya asked as she walked out of the kitchen with a steaming mug of coffee in her hand. Xander nodded. Giles adjusted his glasses before asking, "Have you gone to her dorm room?" When Xander shook his head and said she wasn't there, a hint of worry crossed Giles's face. Just as Buffy opened her mouth to speak, Xander noticing that she looked worried as well, Anya interrupted. "Have you talked to Angel? Maybe she went to Los Angeles." That immediately made both Giles and Buffy look up at her. Anya shrugged and reminded them how angry they had all been with Willow because of the wish spell the previous night. "You were angry too," Xander reminded her. Anya nodded. "Because Willow acted recklessly." Before Anya could continue, Buffy turned towards Xander. "You don't think Willow left Sunnydale without telling us?" Xander finished, running a hand through his hair anxiously. "We were pretty mad at her, but Willow wouldn't do that." "You are all pissed at her," Spike shouted from the guest bedroom where he was tied up. "Shut up, Spike," all of them yelled back. Giles then suggested that Xander call Angel. Maybe Willow had contacted him. At that exact moment, Giles's cordless phone rang. Giles immediately rose from his seat and hurried toward it, while reassuring Xander that Willow could be anywhere in Sunnydale. He picked up the cordless receiver and placed it against his ear. Relief washed over him when he heard a familiar voice. "Hey Giles," Willow greeted from her room at the SGC. "Willow!" Giles exclaimed. Everyone in the room instantly turned toward him. "Where are you? Xander's been searching for you high and low. We were just about to contact Angel to see if you'd called him or gone to Los Angeles." Willow closed her eyes. They were worried about her. She could feel her resolve to stay at the SGC waver slightly. "Is that Willow?" Buffy and Xander whispered at the same time. Giles nodded. No, this was something Willow knew she needed to do. It was something she never would have done otherwise. It was a new adventure. She continued with the story she had rehearsed with Carter and Daniel. After all, she couldn't exactly tell them she had been offered a place at the Air Force Academy without ever having shown any previous interest in it. And while Willow hadn't mentioned it to Carter or the others, she was certain Xander's memories of Soldier Guy from their high school Halloween fiasco would make him suspicious about academy entrance procedures. She took a deep breath before speaking. "Giles, I'm in Colorado Springs." "You're where?" "Colorado Springs? What are you doing there?" Giles demanded. At the mention of Colorado Springs, Buffy, Xander, and Anya rushed toward him. Buffy and Xander immediately began clamoring for Giles to hand over the phone. Giles motioned for them to calm down before telling Willow, "Xander and Buffy want to speak to you. I'll put you on speaker." He pressed the speaker button and placed the receiver back onto the cradle. "Willow!" Buffy and Xander called out together as they crowded around the phone. "Hey Buffy." "Hey Xander," Willow replied. "I'm here too," Anya chimed in. Willow gave a small smile. "Hey Anya." Xander leaned closer to the phone. "Will, I was worried about you. I checked all your hangouts, even your house, but you weren't there." "I just wanted to leave Sunnydale," Willow admitted quietly while everyone listened. "You, Buffy, and the gang were so mad at me that I felt like you guys couldn't forgive me for what I did yesterday. So that night, after thinking about it for a long time, I called a cab and went to the bus terminal. Then I closed my eyes, pointed at the destination on a map at the station, and bought a bus ticket." She paused briefly. "And that's how I ended up in Colorado Springs." "You didn't need to leave, Willow. We're your friends. Hell, I'm your oldest friend," Xander argued, disbelief thick in his voice. "Just come back." Willow didn't reply as Buffy leaned forward and pleaded, "Hey Will, please come back. I'm sorry I got mad at you, and I've already forgiven you. So please, come back." After hearing Buffy and Xander beg her to return, Willow felt her resolve to put Sunnydale behind her weaken a little. Seated cross-legged on the bed, she paused for a moment. This was her choice. This was something she needed to do. If she was still in Sunnydale right now, things would be different. She had a different opportunity now, an opportunity that could lead her to traveling among the stars. As much as it hurt, as much as the ache in her chest stung, Willow held firm. With the speakerphone still active, Willow explained, "I wanted to apologize for what happened the other night. Giles, you are right. It was wrong of me to go so deep into magic, especially when I understood so little of what I was doing. That's another reason why I'm leaving Sunnydale. If I stay with you guys, I feel like I'll keep digging deeper and deeper into magic, just so that I can be useful. At first, I thought I could do it. I thought I could handle it. But after what happened, I think I need to step back from magic." Silence followed on the other end of the line. No one spoke. Willow could only imagine the stunned looks on their faces. But she pushed forward anyway. "Buffy, you should go to Stevenson Hall next Tuesday. That's when my Wicca group meets in the lounge. Look for someone named Tara. I sensed power from her. We haven't talked much, but I think she might be the only real witch in the group." Willow thought she heard a sniffle before continuing. "From what I've seen, she's gentle and a little shy, but I think she can help you guys. Think of it this way. I feel stormy right now, and whenever I've met with the Wicca group, she's been like a calm sea. I think she'd be far more useful to you right now than I am." "Will," Buffy whispered. Willow couldn't stop. If she did, she wouldn't be able to finish what she needed to say. "Buffy, please give your mom my love. And tell Spike I'll miss his scowling face, but not the parts where he tried to kill or bite me." Xander let out a quiet chuckle. "Please keep fighting the good fight. For now, I think I need to step away from magic, vampires, and demons." Everyone sat stunned. Buffy stared at the phone, still struggling to believe what she was hearing. Slowly, she turned towards Giles, desperation written plainly across her face, silently begging him to say something. Anything. Giles shook his head slightly and murmured, "It's her choice, Buffy." He then faced the phone and asked, "Willow, are you certain of this?" A long moment passed before Willow answered, "I am, Giles." "Will," Buffy whispered, leaning forward. Before Buffy could continue, Willow cut in gently. "Everything's going to be okay, Buffy. You'll see. We'll still talk every day. You know they have these newfangled devices called phones." Willow laughed softly, and Buffy laughed with her. "Nothing much will change, Buffy. You'll see." Buffy couldn't trust herself to say anything anymore. If she did, her voice would crack, and then she would cry. Tears were already gathering in the corners of her eyes, And if she cried, then Willow would cry. And maybe Xander would too. It would turn into one giant crying fest between all of them. Instead, Buffy took a shaky breath before saying, "I'll miss you, Will." She quickly wiped at the tears forming in her eyes. Anya stood quietly at the edge of the table, her head lowered. "I'll miss you too, Willow." Willow laughed softly again. "I'll miss you too. Once I get a new number, I'll call you guys again. I miss all of you. But I need to do this for myself." After saying their goodbyes, Willow set the phone down and drew in a deep breath. Next, she needed to call her parents. To be continued. Using the secured phone Colonel O'Neill had provided her in her room on base, Willow finished making calls to her parents after speaking with her friends in Sunnydale. Of course, she couldn't tell her parents how she had really ended up in Colorado Springs. Instead, she explained that she had lived in Sunnydale her whole life and wanted a fresh start somewhere else. They assumed she was tired of living in a high-crime city like Sunnydale and simply wanted a change. Willow was pleasantly surprised that they supported her move to Colorado Springs. She didn't mention anything about the Air Force Academy, at least not yet. As far as they were concerned, she was taking a semester off from UC Sunnydale. Willow first needed to figure out a plausible reason for being sponsored for the academy in the first place. For Giles and the others, the explanation would be relatively simple. In her story, Willow would accidentally use magic. Someone from the Air Force would witness it and question her, and she would tell that person about magic. Then, tada, she would be offered a place at the academy. Or I'll tell a similar, very weird story like that, Willow thought to herself. She still had to figure out what to tell her parents. Deep in thought, Willow was pulled back to the present by a knock on the door. "Hi Willow, it's Sam. Mind if I come in?" "Sure," Willow answered while sitting cross-legged on her bed. Carter stepped into the small room and quietly closed the door behind her. Willow nodded after Carter asked if she could sit down. The Major settled onto the bed opposite the redhead, who wore a tight smile. "I take it your friends weren't too keen on you leaving?" Carter asked. "Nope, they were pretty sad about it," Willow replied before taking a breath. Thinking about the conversation and how upset both Xander and Buffy had sounded made a quiet ache throb in her chest. After talking to them, "I feel kind of alone." Willow had lived in Sunnydale her entire life, and now, for the first time, she was in another state by herself. Her friends were in Sunnydale, the people she was closest to were in Sunnydale, and she was here in Colorado Springs, alone. Willow should have known the loneliness would hit her this hard. "I can understand why this decision was extremely hard for you, but I think you're making the right one," Carter replied in a reassuring tone. "I looked through your school records, especially the ones from UC Sunnydale, and your grades are really top-notch. And I have to admit, the general was right. I'm kinda jealous of your standardized test scores." Willow laughed softly, and Carter joined her. "I think with training and with the Academy's strict curriculum, you'll become one of the best officers we have at the SGC. You really do have a lot of potential." "You're just saying that, Sam," Willow murmured as warmth crept up the back of her neck. "But thanks. It's nice to be appreciated." "I have to be honest with you, Willow," Carter continued. Her lips tightened as though she were carefully choosing her next words. "I still don't understand how this magic of yours works. So please don't be upset if I seem a little skeptical." "I understand," the redhead replied. The Major hesitated before continuing. "Is it genetic? Or, I mean, can anyone use magic, or is there some kind of catalyst?" Carter inhaled deeply, clearly aware she wasn't explaining herself very well. "Is there an underlying reason that allows someone to use magic?" Willow understood what she meant. Giles had told her that almost anyone could use magic, though some found wielding it much easier than others. Some people couldn't use it at all, but Willow wouldn't use Giles's name. "When I first started practicing simple spells, I read that almost anyone, well, most people, can use magic." The Major still looked skeptical, so Willow continued. "Some people find it easier to control magic. Wait, maybe this will make more sense. Have you ever met aliens who could channel energy?" Carter thought back to the Nox. They had been able to channel a form of energy that restored a nearly dead Jaffa to full health. The Jaffa had later run off to return to Apophis, but he had been completely healed. Carter nodded. Okay, Willow looked both impressed and excited. I have so many questions. She animatedly waved her hands before continuing. Think of magic as energy. Some people find it easy to channel that energy, while others need more work. And there are others who can't, Carter finished. Willow nodded. It was easy for me, Willow admitted. I mean, I don't know why, but maybe it just happens naturally for some people. Carter nodded thoughtfully. Could she wield magic? Part of her wanted to know. The other part was not so sure. She already had a fulfilling life, and she wasn't certain what magic could possibly add to it. Leaning forward slightly, Willow added, I'll try not to use magic here, especially at the academy. That's probably a good idea, Carter replied, especially at the academy. I'm not sure how you'd explain a cadet disappearing and reappearing in Las Vegas. Both women laughed. Anyway, Carter continued, I also came by to ask if you wanted to pick up a few things tomorrow. Clothes, toiletries, stuff like that. At least until we can get some of your things from Sunnydale. Dr. Fraser, her daughter, and I can take you shopping. Sure, it would be nice to feel like a normal girl again. It's been a really long time. Willow replied. As far as my living situation goes, will I be staying here? Willow suddenly asked, finally thinking about where she would actually live in Colorado Springs. Well, for now, until your security clearance is sorted out, you'll be staying here, Carter explained. After that, you could stay here until the academy start date, then you'll move into the dorms. I know Janet's interested in having you stay with her once your clearance comes through, if you'd want that. That would be great, Willow replied. A knock sounded at the door. Willow called for them to come in. The door opened to reveal both Colonel O'Neill and Daniel standing in the hallway, checking on her before leaving for the night. Hey Willow, can we come in? Daniel asked. Hey kiddo, you doing alright? We just came by to check up on you, O'Neill said as Willow welcomed them in. Oh, Carter, O'Neill continued, turning toward her. The General wants to see you about tomorrow's mission to P7X867 before you leave. Alright then, Carter replied before turning toward Willow. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night, Willow. Good night, Sam, Willow replied before Carter rose from the bed, nodded to O'Neill and Daniel, and bid them good night. See you tomorrow, Carter. Both O'Neill and Daniel called after her. Colonel? Willow asked, looking up at the older man from her bed. Red, until you start at the academy, you can just call me Jack. O'Neill told her with a nod before continuing. Of course, once you start, you'll have to call me Colonel or Sir. Okay, Jack. What I wanted to ask was, well, can I see the Stargate? Willow asked apprehensively. She was excited to see it. She had no idea what it looked like, which was why she wanted to see it in the first place. It would be nice to see the very thing she hoped to travel through one day. That shouldn't be a problem, Daniel answered as he looked at Willow before turning expectantly toward the Colonel. Right, Jack? Your security clearance isn't... Come on, Jack, Daniel interrupted. We're gonna be here with her the whole time. What's the worst thing that could... Don't say it, O'Neill pointed at Daniel. Don't finish that sentence. Nothing good happens when you or anyone else finishes that sentence. Willow watched the interaction with a gentle smile. They were like two brothers arguing. Daniel reminded O'Neill once again that they would be accompanying Willow the entire time. O'Neill sighed before turning toward Willow. You stay close to us, Red. Got that? Willow nodded excitedly before climbing off the bed. She then followed O'Neill and Daniel out of the room and down the hallway. After an elevator ride and several minutes of making their way through numerous corridors, O'Neill, Willow, and Daniel stopped outside a huge metal door. Red, behind this door lies the world's most closely guarded secret, the Colonel declared proudly before pulling out a keycard and swiping it through a card reader. Only a handful of our allies know about its existence, so be prepared to have your mind blown. The metal door slid open, and the three of them stepped into a massive room devoid of people. Two defensive emplacements stood at the end of a metal ramp leading up to the circular artifact. Willow stared in stunned silence when she saw the Stargate. It's beautiful, she whispered, her eyes fixed on the enormous metal ring. It is, isn't it? The colonel replied, folding his arms across his chest. He tilted his head slightly before joking. Huh, maybe it'll look better in Peridot. Daniel chuckled at the colonel's comment before guiding Willow toward the bottom of the ramp. As they approached, Daniel pointed toward the Stargate. The symbols on the inner ring form parts of a gate address, he explained. When the address is entered into the dialing computer, the inner ring spins until each chevron locks onto a symbol. Once the correct symbol combination creates a valid gate address, an artificial wormhole forms to that particular Stargate. Basically, we can travel anywhere in the galaxy nearly instantaneously. But if you want a detailed scientific explanation, you'd have to ask Carter, the colonel added, gently bumping Willow's shoulder. What's it like? Willow asked, her attention still fixed on the device. I mean, do you feel it? It's like stepping into another room, Daniel explained. So, will I be able to go through the gate one day? Willow asked, looking first at Daniel with a wide grin and then at the colonel. Sure, the colonel replied with a shrug, but only after you graduate from the academy. Remember, General Hammond said you'd be assigned to an SG team only after you've graduated. Tell you what, if you ace all your classes, Willow opened her mouth to respond, but the colonel held up a hand to stop her. And I mean the whole 4 years? Willow nodded eagerly. O'Neill shrugged again. Sure, I'll recommend to the general that you join SG-1. Willow grinned, looking up at the gate. She thought again about how different this was from facing vampires and demons. She remembered the harvest, vampires, the master, the child of the Hellmouth, her alternate vampire self, and so many of the other nightmares she had already seen and endured. This was going to be completely different. She would be going to other worlds, meeting aliens. Willow suddenly sensed a shift in the air. It felt like someone was staring at her. Turning toward O'Neill and Daniel, she found both men watching her with puzzled expressions. What just happened? Colonel O'Neill and Daniel exchanged a glance before looking back at Willow, both with raised eyebrows. Wait up, the colonel interrupted, leaning forward. Did you just say vampires? Huh? Willow blinked in confusion. She didn't remember mentioning vampires out loud. The master? What or who is the master? Daniel asked. Oh no. Was I just speaking to myself? Or... Daniel nodded. Yeah, you are mumbling something about the harvest, vampires, and something about your alternate vampire self? O'Neill added, arching an eyebrow. Vampires as in fangs, drinking blood, stakes through the heart, garlic, dying in sunlight, Daniel pressed. That kind of vampire? No, Willow answered quickly, shaking her head. No. The looks on their faces told her they didn't believe her for a second. Now that she had brought it up, Willow worried that hiding the truth could jeopardize her clearance. They had already placed a great deal of trust in her by showing her the Stargate, and after mentioning vampires, concealing the truth about Sunnydale no longer felt right. She just wouldn't mention Buffy being the Slayer or Giles being her watcher. Yes, Willow admitted sheepishly. Young lady, you have some explaining to do, O'Neill declared in his best Desiarnais impression. Could we go somewhere private? Willow asked nervously. I don't want to sound like a crazy person. This is a military base, the colonel replied dryly. There is no private place. Well, that's true unless you count the restrooms or anywhere off-world, Daniel pointed out, scratching his head. At the words off-world, Willow's eyes widened immediately. And no, we won't be going off-world just to have a private conversation. O'Neill shot back the moment he noticed her excited expression. All right, he sighed at last. Follow me. He patted Willow on the shoulder as they headed out of the gate room together. We're going to your quarters. There's only one camera there, and it can be disconnected. Willow nodded. I'm disconnecting the camera just this once, O'Neill continued. That should give us enough privacy. We want to hear everything about this vampire stuff. Is that understood? Willow nodded again. He didn't sound angry, she realized. Yes, sir, Willow answered softly. Red, you're not at the academy yet. the colonel reminded her as they made their way down the corridor together. To be continued. After entering the room, Willow sat on the edge of the bed and watched Daniel pick up the phone. Since Carter, General Hammond, and Teal'c were still in the facility, Daniel called each of them and asked them to meet in Willow's quarters for an impromptu meeting. Meanwhile, O'Neill whistled as he reached up to the wire connecting the small camera to the main power supply and yanked it loose, unplugging it. He then turned toward Willow and dragged the chair over. Sitting down, he rested his arms on the table while Daniel leaned against the wall. Willow remained seated on the bed with her back against the wall. So, Willow winced. Do we wait or... So, vampires, huh? O'Neill asked, leaning forward with his arms resting on the table. And you didn't tell us this because... Daniel jumped in, and Willow silently thanked him for the interruption. Would we have believed her? I mean, even after telling her about aliens and the Stargate, he hesitated, frowning slightly. Demons and vampires are a little out there. Willow was not entirely sure that helped, judging by the confused look on O'Neill's face and the realization dawning on Daniel that he had somehow managed to confuse himself too. She chuckled softly before deciding to speak. These people understood why some things needed to remain secret. If the public learned about vampires and demons, and that there was a girl chosen to fight them, there would either be mass panic or people trying to throw the Scoobies into a loony bin. And with their luck, an apocalypse would probably happen while they were all locked away in the loony bin. Willow inhaled deeply, then exhaled slowly to steady herself. I'm sorry, Willow murmured. The apology had been the first thing to come to mind. I mean, you guys can understand, right? Sometimes when other people, like the public, learn the truth about what's out there, she waved her arms vaguely outward, it can cause panic or make people think I'm nuts. Daniel and O'Neill exchanged a glance before nodding in understanding. I mean, you guys are already facing a hard time understanding magic, so... Willow grimaced. I wasn't exactly sure how you'd react to vampires. And demons, Daniel added. And someone called the Master? O'Neill pointed out. Before anyone could continue, a knock sounded at the door. After Willow nodded, Daniel crossed the room and opened it. Willow took a deep breath as the door swung open to reveal Hammond and Carter, with Teal'c standing behind them. She waved them inside. The newcomer stepped into the room and Teal'c quietly shut the door behind him. Willow? Hammond asked before turning toward O'Neill. Jack, why are we in Miss Rosenberg's quarters? For one thing, sir, the colonel replied, gesturing toward the deactivated camera. There's only one camera in here, and we could really use the privacy. Privacy? Carter echoed before glancing toward Willow. The redhead laughed nervously while rubbing the back of her head. What's going on? Willow spoke up. I think you guys should sit down. What I have to say is going to be heavy. Magic heavy? Carter asked. Willow shrugged with another uneasy wince. Maybe? The general and O'Neill took their seats at the table while Daniel and Teal'c leaned against the wall. Carter sat near the foot of the bed. Willow had no idea where to begin, but thankfully Daniel came to the rescue. General, Sam, Teal'c, we were showing Willow the Stargate when she accidentally let slip some previously unknown information, Daniel explained. He then turned to Willow. Take your time. Willow centered herself. She didn't need to say anything about Slayers or Watchers. She had already mentioned being part of a neighborhood watch, so she supposed that would have to do. Exhaling slowly, she began. Please understand, I couldn't tell any of you about this. Actually, I shouldn't be telling you any of this, but I didn't even realize I was opening my big blabber mouth back at the Stargate. She looked at each person staring back at her before continuing. Please don't think I'm nuts or a total loon after what I'm about to tell you, because for the past few years, this has been my life. Willow, it would be better if you put everything out in the open, General Hammond urged gently. Carter leaned forward, trying to reassure the redhead. Willow, you know what we do. We deal with weird all the time, so I think we can handle it. It's a doozy, all right, the colonel muttered. He then nodded toward Willow. Please, go ahead, Willow, Daniel encouraged, preparing to listen intently. All right then, Willow replied, bracing herself for the inevitable questions. I've been fighting vampires and other type of monsters with my friends since I was in high school. Stunned silence filled the room. Carter and the general exchanged a look before glancing toward O'Neill and Daniel. Teal'c slowly moved to stand beside Willow's bed. After encountering my first vampire, Carter echoed softly. Let her finish, Carter, O'Neill interrupted. Carter nodded, her eyes immediately returning to Willow. I read up on weird texts on the internet, Willow continued, her mind carefully crafting a lie that stayed close to the truth. I mean, I'm good at researching things, and a lot of what I found claimed that the world is older than any of us think it is. Willow then recounted the same explanation Giles had given her and Xander the day after Buffy rescued them from becoming the latest recruits for the harvest. She never mentioned Giles or Buffy directly. And that's pretty much it, Willow finished. After taking a breath, she added, those neighborhood watches? They weren't really about gangs hopped up on PCP. Vampires? O'Neill asked, leaning forward. Mostly demons of all shapes and sizes, Willow explained. Most of them are really strong. She then turned to Daniel. And there were the barbecue fork serial killers. Vampires? Daniel repeated. Willow nodded. She then explained the Hellmouth, describing it as a mystical convergence between multiple dimensions, most of them far from good, and how that energy attracted creatures straight out of nightmares, such as vampires and demons. A little over an hour passed as Willow recounted everything from Marcy Ross to the lust spell. She only mentioned that a desperate high school student had used another witch to cast the spell. She never brought up Xander and Amy's involvement in that mess. Then there were countless other incidents, and Willow ended the story of her high school years by explaining how the former mayor of Sunnydale had transformed into pure demon during graduation. And that's the real reason we had to blow up the school, Willow finished. Everyone around the table stared at her in silence. She glanced at each person in turn, the quiet almost deafening before continuing. I had more run-ins at UC Sunnydale too. And then there's the whole magic thing. The room remained stunned until Teal'c finally broke the silence. Turning toward the colonel, he asked, O'Neill, what is a vampire? O'Neill shook his head before answering. Well, it's a classic movie monster with fangs that drinks people's blood. Remind me to show you Dracula one day. Teal'c inclined his head slightly, accepting the explanation. O'Neill looked back at Willow. This is a lot. You do believe me? Willow asked. Willow, you have to understand, all of this stuff about magic, vampires, and demons is a little hard to believe, Sam replied. Willow understood. She hadn't believed it herself the first time she saw a vampire. At the same time, she definitely did not want Carter encountering one in Colorado Springs just to prove the point. Well, while it is a pretty fantastic story, I think we should give Red the benefit of the doubt, O'Neill remarked. So you believe her, Colonel? Hammond asked. Carter and the others turned toward O'Neill, waiting for his answer. I don't think she has any reason to lie, O'Neill answered, earning a tight smile from Willow. And the stories are way too detailed for her to have made them up on the fly. He shrugged. The last spell, though? That one was funny. Not really that funny, Willow protested, though she still chuckled at the memory of chasing Xander and Cordelia with an axe alongside several other girls and women. Okay, maybe just a little bit funny. It was a lesson though. There's no such thing as a love spell. So it wasn't you? Carter asked, wanting reassurance. Willow shook her head. She was definitely not going to mention the spell she had once attempted to make Oz hate Veruca. Nope, there was absolutely no need to admit that. Is there anything else? Hammond asked. There's Buffy, Giles, the Watchers, Willow thought to herself before replying. I can't think of anything else. Thank you, Willow, Hammond replied. I would like to remind everybody that what was said here will not leave this room. and there will be no written report. Hammond rose from his chair. It was then that Willow remembered something. She straightened slightly and announced, "There is something else." The general inclined his head. "A few days before I cast the wishing spell, I was attacked by a vampire." Willow noticed Carter and the others preparing to speak, but she pushed forward. She remembered Spike telling them about a group of covert military types beneath UC Sunnydale, where he had been imprisoned and where that chip had been implanted into his brain. Willow didn't know if these people knew about such an operation, but she hoped it would help establish trust. "I tried to run away, but then these guys in all black, like with night vision goggles and everything, tried to take him away. They even tried to take me away, but I managed to escape both the vampire and those guys." O'Neill looked surprised. "In Sunnydale?" "This happened when I was at UC Sunnydale," Willow explained. "Then, a few months back, during Halloween, my friends and I saw these guys in masks in our neighborhood. I think they were wearing those outfits you see on television shows. Kinda like SWAT, the stuff they wear." "Tactical gear?" Carter asked. "I think so," Willow answered with a shrug. "I mean, it was Halloween, so we didn't think much about it." "A special operations team," O'Neill mused, turning toward Hammond, who was frowning. "You think the government knows about what's going on in Sunnydale?" Daniel asked. "That would be... wow." "I wouldn't be surprised," Hammond admitted, rubbing his chin while Willow watched him carefully. They seemed genuinely confused, which most likely meant these people had no idea who was operating in Sunnydale. That was probably a good thing. Hammond continued, "I'm sure another branch could have something going on in Sunnydale without us knowing about it. We simply don't have the clearance or the need to know classification." He turned back to Willow. "If these people tried to capture you too, Willow, then..." "They didn't come after me again," Willow pointed out. "Either way," Hammond continued, "how you arrived here is considered top secret. What you are able to do regarding magic is presidential eyes only, so you are safe." "Will this situation in Sunnydale be investigated?" Teal'c inquired. Hammond considered the question for several moments before shaking his head. "No, at least not by us. Whatever is happening in Sunnydale will be handled by the respective branch. There is no need to shine more light on this command by asking questions that are, frankly, not our concern." Hammond looked toward Willow again. "The President knows you have used magic. He knows you're from Sunnydale. If he had any concerns, he would have immediately let me know." Willow nodded. "I still have so many questions," Daniel admitted. Carter clearly did as well, but it was O'Neill who cut off any further discussion. "Let's give Red some time to relax," he suggested. "It's been a hoot, and trust me, I still have plenty of questions." He turned toward Teal'c. "How about we get Dracula?" O'Neill then glanced at Willow. "And if it's fine and dandy with Red, we'll watch it here. We'll bring popcorn and soda, and Red can tell us what the movie got wrong." Willow nodded again. "I have a lot of questions about this Hellmouth," Carter admitted, "but I guess they can wait until tomorrow." She paused and shook her head. No, she needed to say it now. "Colonel, I think I may have an explanation for this Hellmouth thing Willow was talking about," Carter explained, earning curious looks from the rest of SG-1 and Willow. "The way Willow described it, it could be something similar to the quantum mirror." Willow stared at her strangely while the others adopted thoughtful expressions. Carter continued, "These beings Willow has been talking about could have come from an alternate Earth, or many different alternate Earths. It could even emit a certain type of radiation or energy that adversely affects some people in our universe, but not others, at least in the short term. Who knows what the long-term consequences of that kind of exposure could be?" "It would not be the first time we have encountered an alternate universe," Teal'c noted. "You guys encountered alternate universes before?" Willow exclaimed. "Yes," Carter confirmed. "The first time was when Daniel touched something called a quantum mirror. He was transported to an alternate Earth where the Goa'uld invaded the planet." She glanced toward Daniel before continuing. "Before he escaped that alternate Earth, he witnessed the complete takeover of the SGC by the Goa'uld. When he returned, he brought back information that we used to prevent the same attack on our Earth. O'Neill picked up the explanation. There was another incident when an alternate Carter and a former friend came through the quantum mirror to our world. This time, we traveled to their Earth to prevent a Goa'uld invasion by sending Carter's alternate to the Asgard. After SG-1 returned from that incident, Hammond ordered the mirror destroyed. What Sam and Jack are trying to say, Willow, is that we've seen the dangerous, the weird, and the wonderful, Daniel explained. So, in the grand scheme of things, your story isn't all that different from ours. Just don't tell anyone else on the base or at the academy your story. Actually, don't tell anyone. Now that we're done with all these questions, O'Neill clapped his hands once. Movie time! To be continued.